JARcast movie podcast. If you like this and want more, then check out the JARcast live stream every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Central Time on the Jacob Anders Review YouTube channel, where you can also find movie reviews every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. You can also listen to the entire podcast on all major podcasting platforms such as Spotify, Google, and iTunes. So if you prefer audio, whichever one is your preferred, check it out there. Once again, I really appreciate it, and thanks for watching. And as always, stay sexy, YouTube. It's Wednesday night. Welcome everybody to episode 6 of the JARcast movie podcast. Thanks for coming and hanging out and checking out this week's news, a couple of trailers, and maybe a few other nuggets of movie goodness. We got a few stories to go over tonight. Some interesting stuff, nothing like too crazy, earth-shattering, but some cool stuff I want to talk about as usual. Let's jump right into this. This is a little story, much like the other stories we got here this week, and it's about a TV show adaptation of a beloved, I guess it's beloved. I think it's beloved. It's a classic at this point, a classic movie that I'm pretty sure everybody's at least aware of, and that would be The Addams Family is getting a TV show, which I can't say for sure, but I don't think this is the first time that the Addams Family has had a TV show. But either way, they're getting a TV show, and it is being developed, or actually directed by, and I assume he's going to have some other creative decisions in it, by none other than Tim Burton. And you take that as you will. And this article here even says that Tim Burton is to Addams Family, like, it's just like, it seems like the perfect fit. Tim Burton, because I think he even had something to do with the animated version that came out a year or two ago. I could be wrong there, but I think he had something to do with it. I don't think he necessarily directed it. Maybe he did. I can't remember, but I want to say he had some hand in that. But yes, Tim Burton and the Addams Family do seem like, peas and carrots. They go together just right. But is it maybe that it seems like Tim Burton of, the late 80s, early 90s, Edward Scissorhands Tim Burton. Maybe that's the one. That's the Tim Burton that the Addams Family went with. This current Tim Burton we got now, the Alice in Wonderland Tim Burton, I don't know. Is this a perfect perfect mix? Who knows? We're going to find out, though. But it's not just about the Addams Family. It's actually not a whole lot about the Addams Family. It's mainly going to be about Wednesday. And she is apparently going to be like, she's still going to be a child. It's not like adult Wednesday. But according to this, she's going to be like a detective or something. Yeah, she's going to be like a child detective trying to solve some supernatural mysteries and stuff like that. And apparently psychic, too. Let's look at this story real quick. It says Tim Burton will make his TV debut with Wednesday, a live-action Netflix series featuring everyone's favorite goth child misanthrope, Wednesday Addams. The show will feature an adolescent Wednesday who has psychic abilities and is tasked with solving spooky mysteries, which honestly sounds absolutely nothing like the Wednesday Addams we all are familiar with. I couldn't agree more with the writer of this article here. This is not the Wednesday we know. The Addams Family's always had some like supernatural aspects to it, but they were kind of kooky, jokey kind of way, in a kooky, jokey kind of way, but none of the characters were ever psychic that I remember. I could be wrong. I'm not like an Addams Family connoisseur or anything. I watched the movies when I was a kid. I saw some of the show or whatever it was. I remember. I don't know. I know. Like, I have a cursory knowledge of the Addams Family, but this doesn't seem right. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. Plus, it's Tim Burton. I lost faith in Tim Burton a while back. He still does some good stuff here or there, but he also does Alice in Wonderland and what the fuck ever else he's been working on recently. I kind of fell out of love with Tim Burton a few years back because it seems like he just kind of lost his way. I mean, I will admit, this does seem like a match made in heaven from, the Tim Burton that we started with Edward Scissorhands, Beetlejuice, things like that. But that's not the Tim Burton we got anymore, so I don't really know if this is going to work. It says that the show is on its way. but it's going to be a traditional Addams Family adaptation. Instead, or it's not, I'm sorry, it's not going to be a traditional Addams Family adaptation. Instead, the show is focused primarily on Wednesday Addams, played so perfectly by Christina Ricci in Barry Sonnenfeld's live-action Addams Family films. And she's not coming back for this. This isn't, I mean, further down here, it also mentions, hey, why don't they do an adult Wednesday and bring Christina Ricci back for it? That'd be great, because Christina Ricci was a great Wednesday. She was Wednesday Addams. Probably, besides Raul Julia and Angelica Houston, the best parts of those movies, the two that they were in. So why not bring her back for an adult version? That I might kind of be like, yeah, I could see that. That could be a good time. Kind of bring everybody that you can back. Obviously, Raul Julia is not with us anymore, unfortunately. But, bring everybody else back. And even if they want it to be a Wednesday-centric film, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I'm not in love with the idea. I'll reserve judgment until it comes. But I'm not excited for it, that's for sure. Just right here, based on what I'm reading. It sounds like they're making a Netflix show about Addams Family, just one of the characters. They're running out of fucking ideas here. The official statement from Burton is the upcoming 8-episode series is a sleuthing, supernaturally infused mystery, charting Wednesday's years as a student at the peculiar Nevermore Academy. Wednesday's attempts to master her emerging psychic ability thwart a monstrous killing spree that has terrorized the local town and solved the supernatural mystery that embroiled her parents 25 years ago, all while navigating her new and very tangled relationships with the strange and diverse student body. That thing is, that's not what the Addams Family is. That's where, I didn't see the animated movie that came out a year or two ago, but my understanding is it's not that. It wasn't the Addams Family. It turned into what is it? Hotel Transylvania or something. It's just a bunch of monster tropes and stuff like that. That's not what the greatest part about the Addams Family was not all the monster stuff. Yeah, that's part of it, but it's all that stuff in our world. It says she's going to be at Nevermore Academy. That's probably going to be some academy with a bunch of Addams Family type people and monster-centric characters. That's not what the fucking Addams Family is. Yeah, sure, those characters all get together every now and then, but the Addams Family was much more how funny it was when you took these over-the-top characters and put them into real-life situations that we're used to seeing. That's what that's what made the Addams Family fun and great. And it doesn't sound like that's what they're going with here. It's just going to be really fucking a bunch of fucking weird characters going to a weird school, doing weird shit, all this supernatural stuff. But, look at the first movie. The first movie was great. It was fun as hell. It was about, what was it? Trying to get Fester's inheritance by a gold digger, pretty much. They go and they have to live in a hotel, I think a Motel 6 or something like that. It was these things, how people react to them when they say these gleefully crazy things. I just don't know. Is this going to have that? It doesn't seem like it. Once again, I don't even think they've shot one scene. They don't even have anybody cast for this thing, so who knows how it's going to turn out. I'll, as I said, reserve judgment, but to me, it's not looking good. They don't really have a lot more information here besides Algo and Miles Miller are the ones who are also behind it, trying to put it together. They are the fathers of Smallville, by the way. Which I remember liking what of Smallville I saw, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll be great. It's it's an 8-episode show on Netflix, coming probably in the next year or so. So maybe if you're a huge Addams Family fan, this just seems so weird. The only thing that makes it seem kind of is because Tim Burton's involved, and at this point, does anybody really care? Do you? Does anybody really care that Tim Burton's making an Addams Family show? I don't, but we'll see. Anyway, next in line, next thing we got on the slate tonight is once again another small story, not a big huge deal, but some of you out there in comic book land might be interested in this story. I feel pretty good about it. I'm interested. I'll say that. More interested than in the last story, that's for sure. And that's Constantine. is coming back for a reboot series, this time on HBO Max. And it's being brought to us by J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot. Whether Abrams will be involved with it or not, I don't know. And that is a plus or a minus depending on who you are and how you feel about J.J. Abrams. So Constantine, a.k.a. Hellblazer, which is actually the original name of the series that John Constantine was in, is apparently coming back. They say smoke 'em if you got 'em because Constantine reboot is in the works at HBO Max. J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot is developing the series, which is based on the DC Comics character who first appeared in the pages of the Saga of Swamp Thing. I didn't know that. And went on to lead his own book, Hellblazer. Constantine movie featuring Keanu Reeves was released in 2005, and previous Constantine TV series ran for one season on NBC, and now a new one is on the way. I never saw the Constantine TV show with this guy here. I think his name is Ryan. It probably says it in here somewhere. But this guy right here, I've heard good things about it. I know a lot of people were disappointed that it got canceled after just one season. His character did show up on some of the other CW shows. When I used to watch those, like Arrow and the Arrowverse, he has shown up on some of those. I can't remember which ones, but just a couple of times. He seemed like I liked his Constantine, but of course I'm more familiar with, and most of my Constantine knowledge honestly comes from the 2005 Keanu Reeves movie, and I know it strays from the source material some, but I like the character of Constantine, the idea about him, and I think that the show could, it could be really interesting. It could be good depending on what direction it. However, is there really are they trying to do like the MCU? I mean, what is this character going to be? Because a lot of DC shows right now are on the CW, like the Arrowverse and all that, and that's where this show was. So are they going to try and do a more, is this going to be more dark and gritty? Because Constantine's always been kind of like a darker comic book, and the rated R 2005 Keanu Reeves movie was as well. Are they going for like the DCEU type of vibe? Are they bringing that to the small screen now? Are we going to get some kind of like Disney Plus is doing with the MCU? Are we going to get some DCEU type shows? I don't think that's a terrible idea. Why not do that? See if these characters work, and maybe then they get a movie, like a big blockbuster movie, or maybe even like a team up. Or maybe that's what DC needs to do. Instead of releasing all these individual movies that are kind of like hit or miss, have a show, put a lot of thought into it with some characters people can really get involved with. And then do your Justice League or whatever. After all this Zack Snyder Justice League and all that, do your Justice League Avengers team-up movie as a movie. But just take the show, have like a high-quality movie, production value show or shows, kind of like the CW is doing, but, a bit more high quality, on HBO Max, where the money is, and lots of people, they'll bring people in, and then have them all kind of converge on a fucking movie that way. I think that's a great idea, especially now with the way theaters are and everything, and who knows how theaters are going to come back and how many people are actually leaving their house. Is there really that big of a difference in watching one of these high-dollar, high-production TV shows versus a high-dollar production movie at home on your couch? There's not really that big of a difference. You just get more of it with the TV show. So I don't know if that's I just kind of went on a rant there about it, but I think that would be a cool idea for DC to try out. But it says, they're bringing it back. Keanu Reeves, of course, is not going to be involved with this. Neither is the guy who played Constantine in the last adaptation. But J.J. Abrams, or his production company, Bad Robot, will be. Now, Bad Robot has made some good stuff, and they've made some questionable stuff. Me, myself, personally, when Bad Robot and J.J. Abrams first hit the scene, I was a big fan. I thought J.J. Abrams was pretty much anything he touched just went to gold. He's doing some great things. Past few years, it's been a little shaky. Look at Star Wars, that's real hit or miss, and some other things, some decisions Bad Robot has made. So that kind of, I see how that could be a really good thing for Bad Robot coming in, because Bad Robot usually gets a lot of money, and they usually do at least on the production side of things, they afford a very high dollar production and things look good and get what they need. But I just hope they don't inject some other things into this that don't have a place in it. It does says that they also added that the J.J. Abrams production company Bad Robot is working with Warner Media, who owns HBO Max, on the reboot, and the show is expected to feature the lead character as a young Londoner, which is what, well, I don't think he's supposed to be young, but he is a Londoner. Constantine originally is. I don't think he's supposed to be young, though, so maybe this is going to be like a young Constantine kind of thing. It goes on to talk about how the character was created by Alan Moore and Rick Vittick and Stephen Bissett. And just gives a backstory on him and just pretty much all the stuff I've already said. He is a magical character. He has magic. He has powers and stuff like that. Not in the traditional sense like Superman and things like that. He's more about like conjuring spells and things of that nature. Very much like the Keanu Reeves version was. A little bit more, I think the comic book version and the previous show was a little bit more magic-y than the Keanu Reeves one, but still. This doesn't give us a lot here. We don't have a lot to go on with this story. It's just pretty much saying, hey, it's coming. It's so early. But I'm excited for this. I mean, I'm not like excited yet, but I think this could be something cool. I just wonder, because the Constantine as their first show on HBO Max, I don't know, it just seems like are they testing the water? Are they seeing, hey, let's see how this does, and if it does good, maybe we'll start bringing in some of our bigger, heavy hitters. I mean, because DC does, people talk about Marvel all the time. Let's be real. DC has some really, really, really great characters that could lend themselves to a type of, I mean, look at the Arrowverse and all that, the Flash and everybody. They have some great characters and especially some great villains. DC has the best villains. I don't care. I will fight you over that. DC has the absolute best villains. You want to talk about superhero, the actual heroes themselves? I think they got the best heroes too. I don't think they've always had the best representation, but I think they do have the best heroes, but they definitely have the best villains. Marvel's villains are, I mean, they got some good ones, but compared to like the Joker and all, I mean, really, Catwoman, which is kind of like sometimes a villain, sometimes not. The DC just has some really great villains. And I'd love to see them all done right in like a long-form, high-dollar TV show-esque way, as long as it's faithful to the books, the comic books which it originated with. And I think that would be a cool idea for them to kind of merge together in a big movie. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they'll do it. Not that they brought that up here. That's just me like speculating. Like I said, there's not a lot to this story. We just know that Constantine's coming. But if you're a Constantine fan, and if you're a fan of the old show, well, not old now, I mean, not just a few years ago, or the 2005 Keanu Reeves movie, there is hope on the horizon. There's another Constantine coming. And since it's going straight to HBO Max and Bad Robot is involved, it will, at very least, have money and a good production behind it. What direction they go with it, I don't know, but we'll find out. I'm sure we'll hear more about it in the coming year. So next up is really more of a talking point and less of a story. It's an opinion piece that I read about an upcoming movie, and I disagree with it. And I disagree with a lot of it. I disagree with what it's saying, what its central theme is, but I also disagree with just the overall like sentiment that this story has. And I wanted to mention it because it is on a film, well, a franchise, an IP that I'm very interested in and I really enjoy. And I just wanted to comment on it. This will just be a quick one, just kind of like my thoughts, if you will. And that's going to be on Mortal Kombat. There was this piece put out on Slash Film, and it says, Mortal Kombat Red Band trailer. Can this movie perform a fatality on the video game movie Curse? Well, we'll get to that topic in just a moment, but it says it's been 24 years since Mortal Kombat Annihilation, the second Mortal Kombat movie, debuted in theaters, 26 years since Paul W.S. Anderson's original Mortal Kombat film graced the big screen. Talks about how we're a few months away from the new Mortal Kombat, the new rated R Mortal Kombat coming out. And the new trailer was just unveiled, which I did a trailer reaction to, by the way. Check that out. It for me, it looked great. I thought that trailer was everything I wanted in a Mortal Kombat trailer. I was super skeptical, and I was excited about Mortal Kombat 2021, but I was worried too. That trailer put all those worries to rest. Movie might suck, I don't know, but the trailer didn't suck, and the trailer looked like the movie could be badass, and I was really excited for it. And apparently, a lot of people are. And that's fine. I'm cool. All that right there is fine. But then we go down here. This is a very short story, by the way. And it says, I know the most recent Mortal Kombat game, the 11th mainstream installment in the long-running franchise, had the most successful launch in the game's history, which that is true. But I'm not sure if that's simply because the game's more expensive now than they used to be, or if it literally outsold all of those other titles. No, it literally outsold them, because not only is he's implying that the only reason that the game was the most successful ever, successful launch, by the way, but most successful ever, is because the games cost more now. The game costs $60. Games have cost $60 since about 2005. So we're going on, we're 15 years. They've been for 15 years, and that is ever since Mortal Kombat. I think Part 4 was already out, so everything after Mortal Kombat 4 around about. Mortal Kombat 5, which is Mortal Kombat Deception, and then the DC one. So pretty much everything from Mortal Kombat 4 or after Mortal Kombat 4 has been out since then at the same price point as this one that came out. No, this was the most successful one because this series is still extremely successful. It did have its lull in the early 2000s, but in 2009, I think it was, when they came back, or maybe it was 2011. I can't remember. It was Mortal Kombat 9. When they rebooted the series, soft rebooted the series came back with a vengeance and has been on a roll since then. And it's as popular now as it ever was. So, yes, the series is very popular. They're trying to downplay that and say, oh, I think it's just, inflation. That's why it's making more. No, that is not the case. This is a very popular series. Even if it's not your thing, that's fine, but it's still a very popular series. Anyway, moving on. It says, it certainly feels like Mortal Kombat is no longer in the zeitgeist like it was in the 1990s, when it found itself in the center of controversy about violence in video games. And Paul W.S. Anderson's movies, though they were terrible, were generating lots of enthusiasm from young fans. And that theme song, still a banger. Okay, lots to cover right here. No, it's not... Because when Mortal Kombat came out, it was unlike anything else, and it was in theaters for anybody to see. Yeah, there was blood shooting out all over the place. You didn't have anything like that in arcades. Did I say theaters? I meant arcades. You had our kids, any age kid could walk into an arcade and see decapitations and blood and guts. It was shocking for the time. So yeah, of course, and it was involved in like legal court cases and things like that with Congress. So yeah, it's not in our minds like then, because that was a turning point for just entertainment as a whole. That was a big deal. That doesn't mean that Mortal Kombat's not as popular now as it was then. I would go as far as to say it is more popular because video games are more popular now than they were then. The video game industry outdoes the music and film industry on its own. Like combined, you put those two together and the video game industry is making more money. So... and Mortal Kombat's part of that, and it is more popular now because more and more people are playing video games now. So yes, it is more popular by that logic. It is more popular now than it was then. It's just not as shocking now as it was then. Now, the part that really bothers me about this last sentence here, and maybe I'm nitpicking, I don't think I am, is he says, video games and Paul W.S. Anderson's movies, though they were terrible, we're generating lots of enthusiasm from young fans. No! Paul W.S. Anderson's Mortal Kombat movies were not generating lots of enthusiasm from young fans because Mortal Kombat Annihilation, the second in the series, was fucking terrible. And everyone said that. It was a huge disappointment. It was awful. And this isn't me saying this never. Everybody back then said it too. Everybody hated that movie because it was just bad. And furthermore, Paul W.S. Anderson did not make that movie. He made the first Mortal Kombat, the one that a lot of people still like, and a lot of people say is, in a lot of people's opinion, the best video game movie ever made to date. I don't totally agree with that. It's a great movie, and I really enjoy it. It is what it is. It's hokey, but it has just the right amount of the spirit of Mortal Kombat and takes itself just serious enough, but is just goofy enough to have a good time. It's a great, good time, fun movie. But that's his movie. Annihilation, he had nothing to do with. That was not his movie. That movie was rushed into production right after the first Mortal Kombat took off like it did, and he didn't have anything to do with it. So stop crediting him to that movie. You want to talk about his Resident Evil movies, go right ahead. But he had nothing to do with Mortal Kombat Annihilation. And no, kids' enthusiasm wasn't through the roof for it either. But I do agree that song, still to this day, the shit. But anywho, this story just continues on like that. Like he says here, the question I have is, will modern movie audiences care about the labyrinthine mythology and over-the-top ridiculousness of this story? Or should Mortal Kombat be left as a cultural remnant of a very specific era? Yes, they're going to care. That trailer was like talked about, is still being talked about. It's all over the place. Everybody's super hyped for it. I've not seen anybody be like, man, that trailer sucked. I mean, some are more excited than others, but everybody was losing their shit over that trailer. Yes, people are very excited about this movie. Mortal Kombat is still extremely relevant. Lots of people grew up with Mortal Kombat. Even those that just have a cursory knowledge of Mortal Kombat know Mortal Kombat. They know Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Reptile, Jax, Sonya Blade, Johnny Cage, all that. They know these characters. People are very aware of them. They are part of pop culture. So yes, people are very interested in this movie. Yes, people are going to see this movie. Are they going to go to theaters to see it? Probably not. I don't think anybody's going to go to theaters and see many movies right now, especially with all the ones that are closed and everything that's going on in the world. But people are going to watch this movie. People are going to get on HBO Max and like this and want to watch this movie. Whether it's good or not, I don't know. I don't like how this story, I don't mind the story saying, will this movie be good? We don't know. But it's like they're trying to say that Mortal Kombat is not relevant when that doesn't make any sense to me. That's kind of ridiculous. It's extremely relevant. I'm not just saying that because I'm a fan of Mortal Kombat. I'm saying that because I was still a fan of Mortal Kombat in the early 2000s when it had its big lull after Part 4. Really after Part 3, because Part 4 was kind of a downer too. That was a down period for Mortal Kombat. But I was still a fan, but I recognize that Mortal Kombat's not that big a deal anymore. But it came back, and it's big. It's been a big deal since that comeback in 2011. Yeah, 2011 is when Part 9 came out. And it's been doing great. Every one of them is extremely popular and sells great. This movie has been very popular. People have been talking about it, wanting it. The other part of this story that I didn't like, well, I'm not going to say I don't like, but a lot of people say that I kind of want to debunk is, and I don't know if I'll debunk it because it is opinionated, is the video game movie curse. There's not a video game movie curse. Are there bad video game movies? Yes. There's lots of bad video game movies. But there's good video game movies too. People make it seem as if there's absolutely no good video game movies, and that's just not the case. And no, there's not just one good video game movie. There's quite a few entertaining video game movies. Video game movies are like any other genre, any other movie. There's good ones, and there's bad ones, and there's middle-of-the-road ones, and there's some great ones. That's the same with video game movies. I have reviewed, with the exception of the review that is coming out either tomorrow or Thursday, and I have one more review for my video game movie review series. I've reviewed every single theatrical or sequel to a theatrical mainline video game movie ever made. And I can say that there's some stinkers. There's some shit bombs out there. But there was some really entertaining movies too. I mean, in saying that you're going out there saying something like Warcraft or Tomb Raider, like the new one, or even the old ones if that's your thing. Some of the Resident Evil movies. The Angry Birds movie. It really wasn't that terrible. I haven't seen the second one yet. That's the last movie in the series. But Monster Hunter, which was cheesy, but it was a decent time. There's a lot of others. Mortal Kombat, the original Mortal Kombat. It's a good time. There's other good video game movies out there. It kind of gets irritating to me, and maybe it's because I've watched every fucking one of them and actually in-depth reviewed them, that people talk about how, like, there's just none. Video game movies, if somebody says video game movie, they automatically think, oh, it's going to be bad. I think that's because there was a long string of really bad video game movies, and that was in the late 90s and early 2000s. That was near the beginning of the video game movie boom, and there were some really bad ones. But there's some good ones in there, too. My point is this. Don't just because something's a video game movie does not mean it's going to be bad. It doesn't mean it's going to be good either. But it's just like any other genre in film. It's got some good ones and some bad ones. And let's be real, in most cases, there's probably more bad ones than good ones, and that's just about every genre. I mean, look at movies. How often do you see more good movies or bad movies out there? I mean, think about it. It's the same with this genre. There are good video game movies out there if you give them a chance. I'm not going to go on too much of a rant about it. That's just my thoughts. I think Mortal Kombat has the opportunity to be a great, really fun movie. The trailer looked extremely good. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a good time. Check out my trailer reaction for it as well. I had a good time watching that. And it's one of those trailers that every time I watch it, I've watched it a few times since then, I see something new. Fans of Mortal Kombat will love it. Non-fans, I think will enjoy it too. It just seems like it has the potential to be a really good time. But we won't know until April 16th. That's when it's coming out. So we'll find out then. Also in the news is The Matrix 4. It's coming soon. We all know that. We haven't seen anything about it. It's coming December 22nd, right before Christmas. It'll be a great little birthday present for me, seeing as how my birthday's 2 days later. I'm a big Matrix fan, and I even like the sequels. I definitely see I'm not going to say decline in quality, but the shift in those movies when it comes to the second two. The first one is amazing. The second two are fun. They have their highs and their lows, I'll say that. But I do enjoy the trilogy as a whole. It has some things that I'm kind of like, I don't love it, but it's also got some great things like the Chateau battle and the freeway chase and things like that in the sequels that are just really, really fucking fun. But The Matrix 4 is coming, and we got a little bit of news about it. Nothing like world-ending, but the implications of it really could go either way, just like any other story. And it's about Lana Wachowski and her directing style on The Matrix 4. And we get a little bit of light shed on that. No pun intended. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. By the way, Lana, previously, I don't remember which one she was. The Wachowski brothers are the ones who originally made the Matrix trilogy. And then, of course, both of them, I think Lana was first, and both of them transitioned to females, over the years. And now they both go under, for a long time, they went as the Wachowskis, then the Wachowski siblings. Now, I guess they are the Wachowski sisters. I'm not sure how they're putting it now, but it's not both of them. They were a directing duo for a long time, even after transitioning to females. But now, Lana is branching off by herself to make this one. Her sister, I can't remember what her name is now, but she is not having anything to do with this one. And I don't know if this is the first time for them, but it's definitely you typically see both of them together. So I wonder how the movie is going to be affected by that, because you have two people that their fingerprints are all over the original trilogy and especially the original movie, and now it's only going to be one of them. How's that going to work? We'll see. But one thing is for sure, and is the movie is probably going to have a bit of a different look, and that's because in reading this, it says that it was not 100% storyboarded. And Neil Patrick Harris, who was apparently in it, I didn't know that until reading this, says it was unlike any other Hollywood action tentpole of its kind. In an interview with Variety, the actor detailed Lana Wachowski's unconventional filmmaking approach to major studio production. As Harris explained, it didn't feel large because it felt like she was in her sweet spot, which filming on the fly, filming using natural light, sometimes you'd sit around for an hour waiting for the clouds to clear, and then you'd go quickly film. Talks about how they instead of having, like, everything wasn't storyboarded and all that, it says you'd film pages at a time in 30 minutes and then be done. For those of you that don't know, that is not like most big budget Hollywood films are made. They will spend a fucking day on a page. They don't do anything quick. They redo and do and like set up and all that. Here it sounds like they were moving it like a guerrilla style breakneck pace and just making lots and lots of progress. Hopefully that translates to a good thing. I don't know. It could. Says you'd think a giant movie would be 100% storyboarded, animatics, and we'd be checking off shots. I think she lived that before 3 times over with the originals, and I would suspect that she wants to do things her own way now. It seems often that you felt that you were doing something gigantic because she made it feel very intimate. I'm really torn on this. I'm going to get to the second part of the story here in a minute. This right here, I'm so torn on because they're filming at a breakneck pace, which that could be great. Like if they had a lot of rehearsal or if you just have some really solid actors and a solid director. And I've honestly seen, I don't think, like Lana Wachowski on her own, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to be. Is this a situation where both of them together kept each other in check? Or was maybe one holding one back? Or maybe they just don't need each other. I don't know. But we're going to find out. Like I said, the other thing here, which I just don't want the movie to feel rushed and cheap. Because that's one thing The Matrix always was, regardless of what you thought of the sequels or even the original. They've always felt very high quality. And I want that out of my Matrix movie. I want these movies to line up. I want the fourth. I want to watch part 1, 2, and 3 and go right into 4 and feel like I'm in the same universe. I don't want it to feel like a totally different movie. And that's what this natural lighting thing does for me. Filming in natural light, some directors can, and directors of photography can film in natural light, and it can look great. Like they can make something like The Revenant. That's one. It looks fantastic. One of the best 4Ks you can get, by the way. 4K Blu-rays. It looks great. It looks wonderful. Some people know how to film in natural lighting. Not everybody does. Also, I'm worried about that because the lighting in the Matrix movies is very deliberate. Those movies, when they're inside the Matrix, which is a great deal of the other movies, I'm assuming this one too, because it's called, The Matrix 4. Or I think I heard that the name of it might be The Matrix Resurrection or Resurrections or Reza something. I don't know. Resurrection is in there somewhere. I hope not. I'm not in love with that. But either way, that's not what this story is about. They all have had a very artificial look, but in a good way. Almost like even their like dirtiest, nastiest scenes they've had always looked like clean. Like they had this really super clean look to them and an artificial look because it was an artificial world. Like that whole green hue and everything looked very deliberate. Nothing looked like everything looked like it was just made just perfect, like too perfect. And natural lighting doesn't typically afford that. I'm just worried, is this movie going to have that look or is it going to have an all new look? Is this going to seem like it's part of the same universe? Because if it's not, then why are you calling it The Matrix? Because that's part of the allure of The Matrix. The allure of The Matrix is just, that's part of how it looks. That color, that world they created, that's what people fell in love with. And if you're not going to have that, I mean, that's just a central core part of it to me. And I am worried. I mean, that's not to say that you can't take, if someone's very talented, your director, photographer, or photography, or your actual director are really good with natural lighting, you could take it and I guess in post to make it look that way. We're going to find out on December 22nd, or at least when a trailer comes, but I don't know. It just seems, natural lighting is such a wild card. It just makes me wonder, is The Matrix not going to seem as artificial anymore? And that was one of the things. You could always tell where they were just based on how the film looked at the time that you were watching. When they're in the real world, not just because of where they were and who was on screen and how they looked, but just the way the movie looked. It looked much more natural and like a more traditional film when they were in the real world, but when they were in the Matrix, it looked artificial. And I hope they retain that because that was one of the neat things about one of the little details about the movie that I really enjoyed. Now down here, just another quick part of it. It says the Matrix 4 production Or yeah, they were on pause. Okay. So it says the Matrix 4 production was on pause because of the pandemic. Stunt coordinator Chad Stahelski revealed Wachowski was also breaking from typical Hollywood productions by directing all the action scenes herself and not relying on a second unit directing team. Okay, when it comes to these big action movies like this, it's almost like when it comes to like the big action scenes, not that the director's not having any part in it, but the stunt coordinator or a second unit that is very like action savvy or stunt, like full of stunt people, they usually take a little bit more of a lead on it. And it seems like Wachowski is actually taking the lead and directing all the action scenes. I don't know how involved they were with the action scenes in the original movies. I know they were heavily choreographed, of course, by like Lu Wing Ping, I think was his name. And he was definitely there and choreographing it. But how involved were they with the original? Maybe this isn't too far out there. I mean, the action in those originals is iconic, but that's one of those things that it's really like, oh, this is either going to be just amazing and great or it's going to be a fail. Because one of the cool things about the Matrix is it took that kung fu kind of fighting. It is a heightened reality, like with the punches that stop and all that, very, very Hong Kong, but it's just really cool. They made it so cool and made it so hard-hitting and exciting. I'm just wondering, is she capable of that? I hate to say that, but that is what it is. Is Wachowski capable of having that same impact as the originals did if she's taking on so much more in these directing the action shots? Who knows? I mean, directing shots is directing shots. That doesn't mean the stunt coordinator's not there. They're still there. They're still giving their piece, saying, hey, do this, do that. But I think this is great if she's up to snuff on it. Hopefully, if she's not, someone has, by this point, been like, hey, I really appreciate what you're trying to do here, but maybe let somebody else try it out. I doubt they're going to, well, I mean, I'd say I doubt. I hope they're not going to let the Matrix sequel that's been, by the time it comes out, 20 years in the making, almost, just fail. Because if the action doesn't work in a Matrix movie, then the movie doesn't work. And that is what it is. But as it says here, just about, not everybody, but a whole bunch of people are returning for the sequel as well. Carrie-Anne Moss, Keanu Reeves, Jada Pinkett Smith even. But, of course, we're not getting Lawrence Fishburne and Agent Smith, Hugo Weaving. He's not returning as well. Yeah, Hugo Weaving's character died, but so did Keanu Reeves' character. So did Carrie-Anne Moss's character. So, apparently death doesn't matter in The Matrix 4. So, I don't know. I'm wondering why Lawrence Fishburne isn't coming back. I find it hard to believe that he wouldn't be interested in coming back when all these his other castmates are coming back. Was he not invited back? I don't know. Maybe he is, and they're just keeping it under wraps, so it'll be like a big surprise. Who knows? But Matrix 4, either way, either it's going to it potentially could look a lot different, or it could potentially look extremely unique and look great and have some interesting action. We're going to find out. I'm still excited about The Matrix 4. I'm a Matrix fan. I hope that they don't ruin it, but I will say this much. If this movie comes out and it's not good, you've lost me, Matrix. So hopefully they do a good job, and I am, after December 22nd, looking forward to The Matrix 5. We'll see. Well, after that, then we are going to take a look at something that's a little bit more forthcoming. It's about to come out. This has to do with Justice League, most notably, or more specifically, Zack Snyder's Justice League. We got a little bit of information about that, and this is actually something I was wondering, and they clarify something about the making of this movie, and that is how much of it's going to be new, because they gave when they initially greenlit this thing and said, yeah, man, go ahead and we're going to release the Snyder Cut, make your thing. I heard that they were giving him an additional $30 million to finish his version of the movie. And that makes sense. I mean, that sounds like it is a lot of money, but I mean, in the movie world, especially a big blockbuster like this, to just finish like not pre-production, but post-production on movies with special effects and all that, it's expensive. It's millions and millions of dollars. And they had said, oh, he's going to shoot a few things. And apparently, because I was under the impression he was shooting a whole lot of stuff, but that is apparently not the case. There's apparently only one newly shot scene in the entire movie. But there's 2,650 new visual effects. And I know some of you are like, what the fuck? All this hoopla and there's only one scene? Well, one new scene from his original version. So there's going to be a whole lot of stuff we've never seen, and a lot of subplots and a lot of characters and a lot of all that. But we just never saw it because a lot of stuff was reshot by Joss Whedon and just cut totally out. I've heard as much as 80% of the movie that we got in theaters was Joss Whedon's and will not be in this one. So, about 20%, approximately, there will be a 20% of footage that we have seen that will be in this new one, and the rest will be all new. But apparently it was all shot years ago. The only thing that's been shot now is this one new scene, and we do know that it's of the Joker, and I think he's in the future in the apocalypse world or whatever it is, or Darkseid apocalypse world. From what we saw from the trailer, where he's talking about we live in a society. So that's the only new scene. Now that's a little misleading, and it doesn't mention it here. Other stuff has been shot, but it was more completioning or completing scenes that had been started, or they needed to go back and finish some things. It wasn't just special effects shots. There was other stuff shot. They brought all the actors back, or a lot of the actors back, and they finished some scenes that had already begun. But this is saying there's only one new scene that was just totally shot new from the ground up. So it's a little misleading. There was other stuff that has been shot now, but what this story is pretty much telling us is that the vast majority of what we're going to see was shot back in 2015-16, when they were originally shooting the movie. It says, technically speaking, this is from Slash Film, by the way. Technically speaking, Zack Snyder's Justice League is going to be full of new scenes, but almost all those scenes were already shot years ago, waiting to be finished via VFX work or color correction. But what about newly shot scenes? How many of them are there in the film? The answer may surprise. It may surprise you. It's one. The answer is one. We already knew that one scene is Jared Leto as the Joker talking about how we live in a society. And it goes on to talk about how Deborah Snyder elaborates how they've got 2,600 new visual effects scene, or 2,650 new visual effects scenes that they're doing. That is a lot of effects, and just the overall effects of the movie. But apparently it went from $30 million, which they originally reported that they were giving him to finish this movie, to $70 million. He was given $70 million to finish a movie. There are movies that are made for half of that. I mean, there's movies made for a lot less than that, but there are big blockbuster movies that are made for that amount. He is finishing a movie, shooting one scene. As I said, hasn't mentioned it here, but yes, he did shoot some other scenes and stuff as well. I just thought that was pretty interesting because we haven't really gotten a ton of that information. We've just heard about how, there was this that was going to happen and that. It's been a lot of speculation as to what we're going to see in this movie. We know that Darkseid's going to be, or Darkseid is going to be in it, and the Joker apparently now is going to be in it for a while. Some things like that. Steppenwolf looks different. But overall, we don't know. We know some stuff that's going to be in it, but we don't know the full picture. And this lets us know that, apparently he shot 4 hours worth of movie. I mean, usually when they shoot a movie, they shoot much more than that. But he shot enough to have because that's what this movie's going to be 4 hours long, they say. So he shot enough to have a 4 hour long movie. That sounds like 2 movies to me. They've also released a Junkie XL clip, or not a song for the movie, which Junkie XL is going to be doing the soundtrack now. Before, in the last version, it was Danny Elfman. Junkie XL is coming back because that is who was originally doing the soundtrack and the score, rather, for the original version of Justice League, but he was let go for Danny Elfman to come and do it when Joss Whedon took over. And he's talking about how that's how he knew he had made it, because he got replaced by someone else in the as the composer. And yeah, just a little story, man. Not a lot there. They talk more. They kind of repeat themselves down here, talking about it's coming out on HBO Max on the 18th of next month, and that's a lot of FX shots, which it is. I just thought that was interesting, just something to throw out there. I mean, what do I mean, the one thing that kind of makes me wonder about this is the movie was shown to executives and other people, and I know that some people had said when they saw the rough cut of the Snyder Cut, it was a work print, I'm sure, all the effects and stuff obviously weren't done. They said that it was unwatchable. I'd heard those words when all this first started up about the Snyder Cut years and years ago when the first movie came out. They said that it was unwatchable. They could not put it out that way. So I'm wondering, if they only shot one new scene, what did they do? Re-editing what? Do they still feel that way? Was that just a dumb executive? What's going on here? So is this version, is it now watchable? Did they reorganize some things? I don't know. I'm looking forward to Zack Snyder's Justice League. If nothing else, that this is just a kind of a big shit, like a monumental moment in film, that we don't get this kind of thing. It's very rare that we get that, basically a fan version of a movie. It's not a fan, I mean, Zack Snyder's a fan of Justice League, but we get the fans cry out for something like this, and it actually happens. That's just really cool. If nothing else, I'll be excited to watch it for that. I don't think it's going to be terrible, but I am wondering, 4 hours, man, that's a hell of a run. Maybe it'll be the greatest superhero movie I've ever seen. But we'll find out in just a little, not even over a month, it's third right now. We got less than a month until Justice League, the Snyder Cut, or Zack Snyder's Justice League. I will absolutely be there to watch it that night. It comes out on a Thursday. So whatever time it comes out, I'll be there to watch it and have my very long review about this very long movie up as soon as I possibly can after watching it. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to Zack Snyder's Justice League, because it is coming. Just these two more quick stories real quick. Nothing like world-ending. However, I did want to talk real quick about any zombie movie fans out there. There's a zombie movie that is really great. Came out a few years ago. It's a really good one, and apparently it's getting a remake already. I don't know how I feel about this. It could go either way, though I do feel as if it's a bit unneeded, honestly, and that would be Train to Busan. Train to Busan is pretty well regarded amongst everybody. Everybody who sees it says, yeah, that was a really tense, good, entertaining zombie flick. Very well made. It looks great. It sounds great. There's nothing bad about it. It's in another language. It's in Korean. Beyond that, you're either watching subtitles or watching a dub. But it's a really good movie, which leads me to wonder, why are we remaking it? It's not a movie, like the culture there, or at least the culture as it's presented in this movie, is not so different from our own that we need an Americanized version of it. Beyond the language that's spoken in the movie, which, as I said, can be dubbed or subtitles, the culture's not that different. So I don't see the point of remaking this in an American light. Train to Busan has been it's very popular to this day. I mean, this just seems very unneeded to me. I wasn't aware that they were remaking it. I'm surprisingly not surprised that they're remaking it, but they apparently have found a director for it, and it's going to be a guy named Timo. I'm going to try this. Tahihento? I don't know. I'm going to just say Timo because I can say that. Sorry, I'm terrible with names, man. But he's the director of Night Comes From Us, and he is going to be remaking Train to Busan. Now, the one thing in this whole story that gives me a small ray of light is one person's name. Let me start right here. It says, the idea of remaking Train to Busan might scare some fans. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the original film. I agree. As it stands as one of the best zombie features of the past decade. Absolutely. The only reason to remake it, by Hollywood standards, is to make it English language. I hadn't even read this article yet, and I totally agree with what they're saying here, which is enough to rile up purists and don't think that's good enough. Cause Well, James Wan is producing a new Train to Busan remake. That right there, James Wan. He is the only reason. Nothing against this director. But James Wan being involved, which not every single thing he's involved in is great, but the guy has a pretty good track record at this point. He is the one thing that makes me say, I'll keep my eye out for it. I'll see. I'm not excited about it. I'm not looking forward to it. I don't think it's needed, but I will keep my eye on it. And when it comes out, I'll give it a shot. And hopefully James Wan will work his magic on it, because the guy has an eye, man. He's taken some things that I'm like, why are they even making that, and made something good out of it. He's also been in charge of Annabelle, but and that movie was bad. But nobody wins them all. But we'll see. I mean, Train to Busan, I just don't see how they're going to make it better, because that movie, it was really entertaining. It had great action. It had great story. It had great characters. It had really, it had all the emotions. It wasn't just nonstop action, but it had just the right amount of action, and everything meant something. I really liked what they did with that movie. I think I agree with what this article says, that this isn't needed. What's the purpose? There isn't a purpose besides to put it in English, which you can do that with subs or dubs. Just do that. What's the point? There are some movies, especially some movies from like Japan, because Japan's culture is markedly different than our own in some ways. There are some movies that I understand why an American remake makes sense, because the culture divide in some things is very different. So it makes sense, if the movie makes sense, to bring it over, and at times that works. The Ring, for instance, I thought that was a great American remake. That was really good, and a lot of, not like absolutely different, but a lot of the cultural differences between here and there are different, so it makes sense to appeal to the people that live here. But Train to Busan and the way that culture is presented, the Korean culture in that movie, it's not really about that. It's very much, it's very relatable with pretty much anybody. I mean, anybody here in the West, any Western viewers, there's nothing in this movie that yells, hey, go remake it. But either way, they're remaking it. There's not a lot more here. They just talk about how they want to be respectful to the original and yada, yada, yada. And they talk about other things that this director has made. He may be a good director. Why Train to Busan? They just had a sequel to it come out too, by the way. Regardless of what you thought of Peninsula, it just came out. Now they're remaking it. I don't get it. I don't understand it, but you know what? Who am I? We'll find out. This, like many of the other things this week, is pretty far out. And but as soon as it does come out, I'll give it a shot. I'll give it that much. But I don't have high hopes for it. But I will say that James Wan being attached to it does give me a little bit of hope. So last story of the night is, as the rest of them, a short one, but one that is near and dear to me because it deals with an author that I am a really big fan of and a director I'm a really big fan of. And I was just thinking not too long ago, I wish this book would get an adaptation, which it does already have an adaptation that I love, but it is very different from the book. And I'm a fan of the original book. Like I said, I'm a fan of all this, and that would be The Running Man. The Running Man is, if you didn't know, of course, most people know, the Arnold Schwarzenegger 1980s classic Running Man. But it is based on a Richard Bachman book, The Running Man. And if you didn't know, Richard Bachman is just Stephen King. That's his other name he goes by. He hasn't in a long time, but he used to go by that name with a few books. Usually books like that were some of his shorter stories and things. This is a full-fledged book. I read this book some years ago and really enjoyed it. It's different from King's other work for sure, but it's being helmed. They're making a new version of The Running Man. It just says they're making Stephen King's The Running Man. And it's going to be done by Edgar Wright, which Edgar Wright really has not tripped up yet. He's had nothing but hits. I mean, everything if not hits, solid-ass movies at worst. He hasn't made any bad movies. And or in my opinion, and I think most people are kind of on board with that, saying that his movies are all really good. Everything from, of course, Shaun of the Dead and the Cornetto trilogy and Scott Pilgrim versus the World, one of the most underrated movies in the past few decades. What's the one? The Baby Driver. That was a really exciting flick. He did really well with that. That was much better than I thought it was going to be. He's got a new movie coming out. I think Last Days in Soho is what it's called. His movies are always movies that when I hear about them, except for Scott Pilgrim, of course, I was super excited for that movie, and nobody went, but went and saw it. But all of his other movies, I hear about them, and I'm like, it doesn't sound like that's going to be. I mean, yeah, sure. I'm not like really hyped for it, but then I'm really excited that he's making them, and then I go see them, and I'm like, that was great. And that's how I feel about all of his movies. However, The Running Man, much like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, is a book that I do really like, and I really like the original movie. However, I'm curious, and this article, it just is pretty much saying, just as that title does, it's a stretched out version of that he will be, Edgar Wright is going to be making The Running Man based on Stephen King's novel. But it doesn't specify whether this version is going to be based on the novel or the 1987 Arnold Schwarzenegger film. It mentions both. Says this won't be it does specify that. I just said it. There you go, Jake. Read your material before you go live. This won't be a remake of the 1987 film that starred Arnold Schwarzenegger. The Baby Driver writer-director will co-write the story with Michael Bacall, and they will be much more faithful to King's best-selling novel. Well, then I am excited, because the novel is extremely different from the movie. Like, very different. The movie and the novel, they have very few things in common, beyond the fact that there is a pseudo TV show where people are hunting down a person or peoples. That's all they got in common. Beyond that, it is totally different. The novel is much more grounded in reality. I think the main character, I don't even think the main character's name is the same. I can't remember, but the main character is not a criminal. He's not he's not in prison. He joins the Running Man of free will. Anyone can. You go to the TV station in that world, and the world is just in decay and decline. It's falling apart. No one can eat. His wife has to go walk the streets and be a hooker to get money to make rent and pay and get baby food and stuff. It's a very depressing book. It's got some big downers in it. I do wonder, some of that stuff's like hardcore if they're going to actually do it. And the way that it plays out is not like in some wasteland like in the movie. Now, I love the movie. I love the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. It's so much fun. But all those over-the-top characters and stuff, they're not in the book. The book is much more like bounty hunters hunting these people down. And he goes cross-country trying to hide and just make it. He has to make it. I can't remember how long it is he has to make it a certain amount of time. If he does, he gets the prize. And either no one or very few people make it. And this normal guy seemingly, I don't really want to give it away, especially since they're making a movie now, but the ending is very different, like in pretty much every fucking way. There are some things, a central part of the ending of this book, I do wonder in the world that we live in now, if they will actually have it go down that way. It could be a thing that happens, a very big thing that happens in the end of the book, could land them in some hot water. Some people could see it as distasteful, I'll say that. But it's a really cool book. It's not an incredibly long book, but it is a full-length book. Even if you, like I said, I love the original film, but it couldn't be any more different from it. But it's still a very entertaining book. Stephen King's a great writer, regardless of what you think of him personally or of his movies or any of that. His books and his writing style are just really damn good. I enjoy his writing. I've read many, many, many of his books, and this is one of them. And I am really looking forward to this, especially since my dumbass didn't read this whole story, and they are basing it on the actual book and not the film. I'm excited to see that because I don't want them to remake the Running Man film. It's just, it doesn't need to be done. But the book, definitely there's a story there to be told, and I think people will be kind of, really surprised at how different the book story is from the original movie from back in the day. But if you are a fan of The Running Man, most specifically the book, which I think more people are probably fans of the movie, but if you are a fan of the book, There's a light on the horizon here in the next, I'd say, year or two. We're going to get an adaptation of that from a very, very good director, Edgar Wright, and hopefully he'll do it right. And if anybody would, I think it'd be him. He has a great track record. So I am really looking forward to the Running Man book adaptation that we're going to get here in the next couple of years. I wanted to real quick just look at this week's releases. And for those of you that didn't know what's coming this week, I'm here to let you know. We got a few things coming out this week, some of which are well-known, some of which are not. First up on the list coming out, and all of these, by the way, apparently are all coming out on the 26th of February this year, which is in a few days. I believe that's Friday. We have, first up is Tom and Jerry. I've heard of this. I haven't really seen any trailers or anything. I'm not the biggest Tom and Jerry fan. I never was. I don't have anything against them. Just wasn't my thing when I was younger. I'm fully aware of them. I've seen them, but I can't say that I'm super excited about this. Will I see it? Possibly. Maybe. I don't know. I don't plan on doing a review on it or anything. Who knows? Maybe I don't know what I'm missing. This could possibly be the greatest animated movie ever made, and I don't know it. But it is coming here in a few days on the 26th. It's directed by Tim Story. He's done some other stuff, I think. That's interesting. William Hanna is he's one of the writers. William Hanna was he created the characters. Chloe Grace Moretz is in it. Michael Pena and some other people. But yeah, those it's got some big names in it. I'm sure that there are a lot of Tom and Jerry fans out there, and this will probably make them happy. I've heard some people talking about it. So I guess we'll find out. We'll hear more from all the mainline reviewers in the next few days. I probably won't have enough room on my plate at the moment to give this one a immediate watch and a review. But who knows, at some point, having kids myself, I will probably see it. And if it just ends up being the greatest animated movie I've ever seen, I will just do a review because of that. Next up after that is a movie called The Father, also coming out the 26th. I have heard of this, and I've heard good things. I won't be able to watch this right out the gate either, but I do plan on catching it soon. It's got Anthony Hopkins in it as a man who's suffering from dementia. It says a man refuses all assistance from his daughter as he ages. As he tries to make sense of his changing circumstances, he begins to doubt his loved ones, his own mind, and even the fabric of his reality. This was a big winner at a lot of the festivals and stuff earlier this year. I've heard lots of buzz about it. This is the type of flick that's going to be talked about. If it was later in the year, I'd say at the Oscars. It may still. It's never too late, I guess. But this, I hear Anthony Hopkins does a fantastic job in this movie, and it was just very well regarded. At this point in time, it is sitting at a 7.9 on IMDb out of 10, which for IMDb, that's pretty damn high. So I've heard good things about it. I can't give you a recommendation, but it does look interesting. I'm interested in checking that out. After that, we got a film called Crisis with my man Gary Oldman in it and Armie Hammer, which till this day, I still think that his parents, that's like a bad joke. Arm and Hammer? I mean, was that what they were going for? I don't know. Anyway, Crisis, coming out on Friday. 3 stories about the world of opioids collide. A drug trafficker arranges a multi-cartel Fentanyl? I don't know what that is. Fentanyl smuggling operation between Canada and the U.S. I feel kind of stupid because I don't know what that word is. But anyway, an architect recovering from an... Cut me off. An architect recovering from an Oxycontin addiction tracks down the truth behind her son's involvement with narcotics, and a university professor battles unexpected revelations about his research employer, a drug company with deep government influences bringing a new non-addictive painkiller to the market. I haven't really heard anything about this, but it does have Gary Oldman in it. He's very solid, or really great in most things he's in. I'd like to think that Gary Oldman wouldn't just be in just total trash, but he was in Lost in Space. So not everybody's perfect. And as I said, it's also got Armie Hammer in it. Armie Hammer is also kind of hit or miss, Lone Ranger, but he's typically pretty good as well. And Evangeline Lilly is in it as well, and she typically makes pretty good decisions. So this one is kind of up in the air at the moment. It is not rated, so I guess nobody's given it any kind of rating. So I have no idea, nothing to go by whether this movie's worth it or not beyond the people that are in it. Sounds like it might be one of them gritty, kind of dark, depressing ass fucking crime movies, but who knows, it might be great. I'll probably check it out at some point. After that, we have The Vigil. The Vigil actually made in 2019. I have actually heard of this, have not seen it. It's sitting at about a 5.5, which as far as IMDb goes, that's not the end of the world. That doesn't really mean a lot to me, but doesn't have any names that we're really aware of. It's about a man providing overnight watch to a deceased member of his former Orthodox Jewish community finds himself opposite a malevolent entity in writer-director Keith Thomas's electrifying feature debut. So, hey, if that sounds like something for you, I haven't seen the trailer, don't know that much about it, but who knows? Little movie might be good. We also have something called Tiger, and then Night of the Kings and Things Don't Stay Fixed. Those are 3 smaller movies. Not going to jump into those, but that is the releases for this week. Mostly smaller movies. I'd say out of all of them, Tom and Jerry is probably going to be the one that gets picked up and watched the most by most people just because it's the most well-known. And, you know, kids, they're going to watch that stuff. But The Father is probably the one that seems the most interesting to me personally, just because I've heard some really good stuff about it. Anthony Hopkins is always great in everything he's in, even when he's in bad movies. But I have heard that this one is a really interesting film. Dementia, I do have some personal experience with dementia and Alzheimer's, so I will check this out because it is a devastating disease that can tear people and families apart. So it'll be worth checking out. So that'll do it for the news and the releases of the week. And before we get out of here, I did want to check out, as usual, 2 little trailers. There was a couple of big trailers that came out this week, but I was actually able to do trailer reactions to those separate from the show because they came out earlier last week, and I didn't want to wait until this time. That would be like the Justice League trailer and also, of course, the Mortal Kombat trailer. I highly recommend going and checking those out, at least the trailers, both of which were really interesting, especially that Mortal Kombat trailer. I really, I know I talked about it earlier, but I love that trailer, and I'm really looking forward to that movie now. But these 2 trailers, the first one I want to check out is of a movie called Doors. Just got announced. It will be coming out here soon, I believe in March. It's at the end of March, I believe, is when it's coming out. It is by a distribution company that the company I work with and I get screeners through works with. So I'm hoping I will be able to get a screener of this movie because what I saw of it, haven't seen the whole thing, but what I did see of it looked really interesting. So let's look here and see a little bit more about Doors and see if it's all that it's cracked up to be and if I'm excited about it. So let's check out the trailer for Doors.
Doors started appearing all over the world.
Hello? Hi.
Jamal.
Is that a door? It looks like a monolith.
I have a door.
No, if you had a door, there would be like a million of those knockers here sterilizing this entire place.
Sure, if they knew, they'd be here, but...
So I guess this is like a normal occurrence that these
I think this is a good time
doors or doorways show up. Oh! Becky and the VHS trilogy. I like both of those.
All right, where to first?
Split up, we can document more.
Hello?
I like the look of it. Looks very infinite journey into science fiction.
I
like these sci-fi, these little sci-fi movies.
It's a lockdown. That means we stay locked down.
Oh, we know
Maybe
exactly
it
what
takes us
lockdown means,
somewhere.
believe me. It's 2021.
This is Unit 421. I'm going to need backup.
The doors are collecting data.
That guy looks familiar.
Stay behind.
Don't you see? We can learn the secrets of the universe.
I'm in some kind of hallucination.
Huh.
There are copies of myself.
What is it?
Oh, copies of himself. What the fuck? What was up with that person's face?
No,
What? March 23rd. Well, that was cool. I like that trailer. It doesn't give too much away. I like trailers that do that. It's I mean, I won't say like super low budget, but it's clearly a smaller film. But I mean, that's not a bad thing. Some of the smallest movies out there are some of the best ones. But it's clearly a smaller sci-fi movie, but sometimes those are the best, most like interesting ones and the most creative. I don't know. I mean, clearly there's these doors that they got going on in it, and I mean they're doing. I don't know where the doors go, but I guess they're common knowledge in this world apparently of doors. I like the fact that the trailer didn't give too much away. It didn't it just gave you a basic vibe of what's going on. Not even what's going on, of just like the tone of the film. And that seemed interesting. I mean, I can't say that I'm like just hype level 10 about it or anything, but I am interested in seeing that. It looked really like it could be really good. I mean, it could be great. It could be terrible. We won't know until March 23rd, but I'll definitely be checking that out on March 23rd. Hopefully I can get my hands on a pre-screener. But what else can I say about it? It didn't give much away. I feel like there's a lot more to that movie it's not showing, but they don't want to show it because they don't want to give too much away. Like all the stuff, it showed a lot of pictures of people like looking at stuff like this, like, oh, what's going on? And you heard a lot of things, but you didn't really see much. But I did see a few special effects here or there, and it looked good. So I don't think that it's like, oh, we don't want to show stuff because it doesn't look good. So I think that it seems like it might be kind of a visually, I don't want to say stunning, but like a visual film. It's going to have some really interesting visual takes to it. But that's really, I mean, what else can you get from that? It has my interest peaked, and it didn't give too much away, and that's what a good trailer does, I think. Give me an idea of how the tone of the movie and if I'm interested in that kind of thing. So I'm interested in Doors, and I'm definitely going to be checking that out when it hits VOD on the 23rd of March. Hopefully before, like I said. But yeah, Doors. Hopefully you guys liked it. If you did, let me know in the comments below. And if you're looking forward to it, let me know down there too. All right, so this trailer, I read the synopsis, have not watched the trailer. It's really short. I'm looking at the time of it. It's only 1 minute and 29 seconds total. So it's not a very long trailer. It's a smaller movie called Hostage, but the idea behind it seems interesting. I don't have the synopsis right in front of me right here, but it ultimately said something it sounds kind of crazy that a girl, like a family, a girl is adopted by the people, the family that murdered her family. Like, I'm assuming like murdered, like, you know, murder, like in a violent kind of bad way. I mean, I don't know what murder's good, but you know what I mean. And then years later, she is, you know, having to decide. I guess she finds it out. Maybe she's younger when it happens. I don't know. And she's having to find out, or having to decide whether, you know, who to side with or something. Like these people that she's come to know, because apparently they're doing something else, or I don't know. She's living with her family's murderers. And I guess when she finds out about it, she has to decide whether she's going to stay with them and do what they do, or rally against them. But it just sounded really interesting, and they sent this trailer. I thought I'd check it out, and I was doing this tonight, so I said, hey, I'll check it out with my viewers. So here we go with the trailer of the little indie film Hostage.
Who is it? You're gonna die tonight.
Oh, it's like The Strangers.
Either kill my mom, or they'll kill us both.
Oh shit, they made her kill her mom.
And then you got adopted by your real parents' killers?
Oh, so she knows. That's fucked up.
I want you to kill my mom.
Oh,
She's the wrong family to rob tonight.
She got people to...
Birdie wanna play, huh?
I guess she hired somebody to kill them because they killed her parents, I suppose? What is going on here? Was she playing a Game Boy?
Focus for a minute here.
This is getting messy.
We can finally.
Looks like it might be violent. Well, we got a hammer. Anytime there's a hammer involved, you know it's going to get a little bloody.
So we doing this?
You're insane.
Now we're talking.
So okay, so I guess she's crazy too, maybe? There's a lot to take in there. All right. Yeah, I liked what I saw. Much like the other one, it's clearly a smaller movie, but as I said with that one, smaller movies sometimes are the best ones, and that one it's got the potential to be like really brutal, and I guess it's a home invasion. It looks like, I didn't realize from the synopsis that she knew that the people she was living with killed her parents. And apparently when she was younger, not only did they kill her parents, they made her kill her mom or her parents or something like that. That's what the trailer led me to believe. And then I guess years later, she hired somebody or got somebody to sneak in and kill her her adopted parents. And then she somehow gets tangled up in it, but she looks kind of crazy, which I guess if you're living with your parents' murderers that made you murder your mom, that might make you a little crazy. I'm really confused. I don't know what exactly is going on here, but I am intrigued. And I kind of like the vibe it was getting off. It looked like it might have that really, kind of a possibly hardcore, violent, kind of gory vibe going for it. It might not. I mean, it might be super corny too. I don't know, but I like the trailer. As I said, it's clearly a smaller movie, but I don't hold that against it. This could be possibly a breakout. Maybe a really fun. If they do this right, it could be a really interesting premise. I mean, that whole thing about having to kill your own parents or they're going to kill you too. How traumatic that could be to a kid and what it does to you as you get older, and then that's all really interesting. I'm interested in seeing that and how it works out, and hopefully this movie's good. It has that violent potential, which I am a gore hound to a degree. I mean, when I'm gonna watch, I don't want like gore and everything, but this kind of movie like this, it's presenting itself as like that really brutal kind of gory movie. So I want it, when it does that, I want it to go all out. I want it to be all fucking gory and brutal. When like somebody gets killed, which apparently people are going to get killed in this movie, I want to see like like some brutality. So, not that I'm some sicko or anything, but if I'm watching a brutal-esque kind of movie, that's what I want to see. I want to see it. Like, go ahead and show it. Don't hold back. Just show it to me. So hopefully having a smaller, but which it doesn't look bad. The movie doesn't look like it has a micro budget or anything, but I'm just assuming it has a smaller budget. And if it does, only thing I ask is when it comes to that stuff that they don't overextend themselves. Because when filmmakers do that, I'd rather you not show something than show something that looks bad. So, but story-wise, I'm intrigued. It seems very interesting, and I'm interested in checking out Hostage. I hope they get this thing sold soon. The press release said it's due to be sold here like in the next like week or so. So hopefully soon after that, I'll get some details on when it'll be released, because I'm interested in seeing this. This seems something kind of new and fresh, and I like that. It's not the same old or a remake or some shit like that. So hopefully this will be kind of a breakout for these filmmakers and these actors and actresses, and just something really entertaining and cool. And I hope in the next month, 2, 3, whatever, whenever it finally gets a release and I get my hands on it, I hope I'm saying really great things about it, just gushing over it. Or maybe I won't be. I don't know. But we'll find out whenever they finally release this thing, which I'm assuming will be really soon. So that'll about do it for this week's JARcast episode 6. Thanks for hanging out and watching. Hope you liked the news that I had and the couple of trailers that we looked at this week. I'll be back here next week on Tuesday night shooting it live. If you want to see this thing go down live, come witness the disaster at 9 o'clock Central Time, which is 7 o'clock Pacific Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, and I shoot it live and interact with everybody and then cut it all together for what you're seeing here. Also, you can find this podcast on all major podcasting platforms such as Google, iTunes, and of course Spotify. So if you rather the audio version, go check it out on your favorite podcasting platforms. And if it's not available on your favorite, just shoot me a message on Twitter or even YouTube, and I'll try and get it on there for you. As usual, thanks for checking out the podcast, and I'll see all you guys next time. Appreciate it. Peace.